We're looking at our third time together talking about the names of God. It's an exciting study. You could really spend a long time looking at these names of God because the names in the Old Testament meant something to the people. They weren't just random names. The people tried to identify by their names. And so God in particular, as we travel through the scriptures, and especially the Old Testament, we have all these names for God, the main names being, as we'll see, Elohim we're looking at now, Jehovah or Yahweh, and Adonai. Well, those are the three main names, but there's many offshoots, many derivatives, many hyphens that really pin down and detail who God is. It really is a great help for describing the very nature of God. We're going to start today with Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. And usually now in our English text, we're going to not have any derivative of the Hebrew like El, but the words are actually translated for us and what they mean. We got that example in 7:9 of Deuteronomy. And you shall know therefore that Yahweh your God. Now, Yahweh we're going to come to in a little bit later down this line of this series, but right now we're just staying with Elohim. So Yahweh is your God, and that's Elohim. He is God, the faithful God, who keeps his covenant and his loving kindness to 1,000 generations to those who love him and keep his commandments. So he is your God, he's your Elohim, but the derivative here in the Hebrew is El-Emuah. That's spelled E-M-U-N-A-H. And it means faithful God, as it's translated here. He is God, the faithful God. And so what we're talking about here then in this derivative of the name of God is that he is not just God in general, the all-powerful one, but he is also the all-faithful one. And that helps us understand then a nature of God, a characteristic of God, in his great power where he could do anything he wanted to do. And there's no one who could call God to account. And yet, because of the very nature of God, who is faithful, he is always faithful to us. And this is a reminder in the book of Deuteronomy to the people of Israel that God is a faithful God to them. They needed to know that. They're getting ready to go into the promised land, and they needed to know that they're going in with a God who is faithful to them. Not only all-powerful, but he's on their team. He's on their side. We can go back over to Genesis now, chapter 16, verse 13. We find another name for God. This is El Roi, or R-O-I. And we see in verse 13, it means the God who sees. So verse 13, then she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her. Once again, here we have Yahweh. You are a God, an Elohim, who sees. El Roi, or R-O-I. And that means then that God sees, or it goes, for she said, even I remain alive here after seeing him. So the Lord approaches her at a time of great need. This is Hagar. And as the Lord approaches her, and she sees a manifestation of some sort of the Holy Son of God, the pre-incarnate Son of God, she sees him, and she knows he sees her. This is a God who recognizes her precarious situation. She's in a desperate strait. She has no means of survival, no means of taking care of her son or herself. She's pretty much abandoned, but God shows up, and God sees her situation, and she sees something of God's nature as well, and so she describes him in this manner. Let's take a look at one more today over in 2 Samuel chapter 22 and verse 47. We have another one, and this one is pretty interesting because it shows up a lot in the book of Psalms. That's why I wanted to hit this one. It's El Shaddai, S-A-H-I. And we find it in 22 verse 47 when he says, Yahweh lives, and blessed be my rock, and let God, the rock of my salvation, be lifted high. So this is a description of the Lord as a rock. And as we think of rocks, we think of how solid it is, how it can be our foundation. We can stand on it. It will not crumble, and we can have good footing. And so this is a description then of the fact that he is our rock, the rock that we can stand on. So El Shaddai is that rock that is ours. And so there's another thing. God is one we can stand on. God can be trusted. God is our firm foundation. The psalmist turned to this type of word very regularly to speak of God being our rock. I think that should give you and I a wonderful day in the Lord as well, as we think about God being faithful, and God being all powerful, and God being our rock. We'll see you tomorrow.